I spent most of my childhood, my formative years, at my grandma's house. My grandma doesn't speak a word of English, and I was never really properly taught how to speak Spanish, so to say. I picked up a good bit of it. I can pass by. However, growing up in that place as an in-between of Puerto Rican, Cuban culture with growing up in a mostly Americanized areas outside of West New York, it was very difficult for me to really have a lot of social interactions with my family. I didn't get my little brother until I was 5 years old. So, needless to say, I had to spend a lot of time trying to come up with stuff to do. I would take grapes and then poke toothpicks in it, and those were my action figures. The action figures that I did eventually get from the 99-cent stores. I would go ahead and invent entire stories around them, long, spanning plot lines with characters that exit and then return and then get betrayed and get their limbs cut off. Limbs are flying everywhere, mostly hands, which some of them never reattached. And a lot of times it was as not only a way to pass time, but as a way to create something. When it was just me and my brother, I had to take what was from in my head and spending time for myself from the internal to all of a sudden I needed to find things that would entertain both of us. So we would go ahead and forage for things to do. I mean, we had a backwards gen PlayStation 2 that we would play a lot of our games on, and if you ever play the PlayStation 2, those discs are pretty fragile. They scratch very easily, and they break even easier. So, during that time in that small two bedroom, 2 and a living room, bedroom apartment, we had to look for things to do. We had to find things to do, and we had a fraction of what we have now, right? And yet, during that time, when we were foraging and playing on a backwards, less powerful console, we were happier, right? And it's not only just because we were kids, but it was that we were kids and we were discovering. One of my personal treasured memories that I have, I said that a little weird there, treasured memories that I have with my brother is when we were digging around our grandmother's house, and in the corner of the kitchen there was this file cabinet. In that file cabinet, when we dug through the papers and the pens that were all there, we found a copy of a PlayStation 2 game. That PlayStation 2 game's name was Metal Gear Solid 2, Sons of Liberty. And we put it in. We put it in the PlayStation 2, took out the disc, examined it, looked alright, plugged it into the PlayStation, and we played it. And it's a very vivid memory that I have booting it up for the first time, playing it, the opening with the harsh rain when you're on the tanker, and being there with my little brother with the cookies and the milk in this living room blanket underneath us in this tiny little TV playing the PlayStation 2. It was very formative, and it's something that I treasure. I can still taste the milk and cookies that I had on that day. And moreover, we didn't really have access to any YouTube videos, any guides, any playthroughs, which is unthinkable now. So it really was every progression, every step that we took to get there, we earned. And it was literally like we were in that game doing our best to get through it. And there was one point in the game, where we're fighting this boss and he blows himself up, and I had no idea what to do from there. I was stuck, so we had to find my cousin's laptop and open it up. And we finally managed to find like some kind of guide on how to do it. I remember feeling stupid, but it was still really hard to get to, and it was like took like a couple days before we could move past it. So the access to it was just like the technology was there that we have now, but it's just the access to it was different. So what am I trying to say here with all this, with this long anecdote here about my life? It's the fact that there's a couple things really to do with that story. Number one is nostalgia, right? And how it sucks you in and takes your money and keeps you trapped. Two, being that it wasn't my age, my proximity with my little brother, my isolation, that, and like the game itself that made it such a treasured memory. It was the foraging, it was the discovery. So, start with nostalgia. Nostalgia is tricky because it takes all those elements that I just mentioned for the second point, and it wraps it up in this nice, rosy memory for us, right? We hold on to these things, like the cookies and the milk at my grandma's house, for instance, and we would go to the store and try to buy a cookie to replicate that memory, right? Maybe if it's like a girlfriend that you had and you broke up and your thing was that the two of you would, I don't know, skip rocks at the lake. You might go there and skip a rock just to try to get a hit from that nostalgia drug. But like any drug, it'll never really hit as hard as that first time. And advertisements that try to sell you things tied towards nostalgia, such as one that I saw recently was a product of, I think it was Hims, right? Pretty sure Hims is used to keep your hair, and that is just one of many different medication commercials that they don't sell you the medication, they sell you the fact that you can regain holding up your child in a park, right, with your health, with your vitality, and somehow that drug, that thing, that experience will bring back the nostalgia, bring back that formative memory. But the truth is that a lot of times it won't. And even if it does restore your health, it won't bring back that moment in time. I went back to my grandma's with my brother, and we were both about 10 years older than we first discovered Metal Gear Solid 2. And it was fun, but it was nothing like that experience. It was nothing like that first time when we were both snot-nosed kids, rosy-cheeked and excited to see what adventures Snake and Raiden were going to get themselves into. It was different. Very different, and it felt like we were imposters in that place because we were different people in the same place. My grandma later moved out of that apartment, but when it was just me and him and we booted up the same PS2 with the same restored disc, didn't come back. Didn't hit as hard. It was just like, you know, never didn't do it. And it's sad to think about, but at the same time, it's important for us to, instead of chase these memories, instead of us chasing these memories, it's important to hold on to them and treasure them, not look for any way to recreate them, but instead to create new ones. And when we create these new ones, going back to the second point, we have to make sure that we are doing so by discovering something new. Now, a lot of this may seem like common sense, but breaking out of your mold and broadening your horizons, challenging yourself, not letting yourself getting stuck in a rut, it will open the pathway towards a new grandma's house, towards a new bite of milk and cookies while playing your favorite video game at the time, right? And it's important also to take off the training wheels when you do so, you know? It's scary. We want to be safe, right? We want to have that walkthrough to the video game to guide us if we get stuck. But we can't do that, you know? And I don't want to grandstand with this video with this we, but I mean to use we as an inclusive qualifier towards this, right? Because every person that I've encountered to some extent can relate to this experience, can relate to someone or something or somewhere that they're chasing that they can no longer get to, that exists only in a memory. And while they're running towards that, they're running away from those new experiences. And even if they are going for those new experiences, they're not doing so in a challenging way. And it's easy to say that you need to broaden your horizons, but a lot of times we have a lot of responsibilities. We have jobs, school, for those of you who are older, children, right? Relationships. Everything seems to want to take away time and time and time. And then on top of that, when we do have time, I know for me at least, you know, I doom scroll, you know. But while we're doing that, while we're just watching these safe clips on YouTube Shorts or TikTok or wherever, we're not going out and experiencing the world, you know. We're not going out and forming those new memories. We're not challenging ourselves. Sure, we're watching a new video, but we're not breaking free from the site. I don't know. I'm sure you guys get what I mean, but it's like there's just so many people that feel like they're stuck, you know, and especially in this current day and age, right? February 2026, the American economy is pretty bad, which means that with little money, we're not really able to, you know, experience new things. Everything costs more, and you have to work harder for it. And it feels like the world around us is shrinking and shrinking and shrinking and closing us in, and then we have to solidify ourselves around the shrinking mold, right? But we're not clay, you know? We are people. And we should constantly be changing ourselves, changing the way we look, changing the way we see, changing all of that. We need to remember that we are constantly in the process of becoming something else, right? And if we are not becoming, then we are degrading, you know? So yeah, I don't know. My brother gave me this idea of sharing that memory that I had with him in my grandmother's house. And in doing so, it was very sweet. But it's also very bittersweet in the sense that as much as I treasure that memory, I think back at all the times that I tried replaying the game and capturing that magic, that feeling of discovery. You know? And me doing this YouTube thing, I mean, I've been wanting to do it since I was like 12. So, yeah. YouTube also, I mean, changed a lot for me. I remember when I got my first Kindle Fire, I should say, and instead of reading all the time, I just started watching videos. And videos are they're easy, right? And they are cheap. They don't really, they prevent you from really digesting and creating and discovering, right? If there's any word that I want you to really take away from this video is to discover, you know? And when I clicked on that YouTube video on my shiny new, practically iPad, is what I used it for. I didn't read any books on there. it changed my life, because then I went from reading all the time, discovering all the time, to now I was consuming all the time. A I went from consuming things that would change me to consuming cheap, easy, accessible media that didn't really change or challenge me in that way. Yeah. Books challenged me. Videos, for the most part, didn't really do that. And there are some banger YouTube videos out there, you know, but they are drowned in this sea of garbage that is YouTube. And even by me putting this video out there, I guess in some way I'm contributing to that, throwing this out into that sea. But I don't know. And it's also very interesting talking about this as well, because Metal Gear Solid 2, as you might not be aware, is about how a big message of it is from the lens of 2001, about how the advent of the internet was creating this flood of content to consume, and about how the antagonists, these rogue AIs, wanted to control it. So it's very prophetical of its time, and not a lot of people really acknowledge that. But yeah, 100% we are seeing the death of the Wild West of the internet, and the cultivation of these malicious censors and filters and whatnot. And by doing so, it's shaping the people who have lost their drive to discover. I've met a lot of people within the Gen Alpha stage, and they in particular just raised by CoComelon and just anything to distract them. And it's easy to say that, oh, you know, it's the parents' fault, right? They're just making iPad babies, putting a screen in front of them to shut them up. But these are parents also that, because of the economy, they have to work more. They don't, and they're exhausted. I've seen it. And when the parents are exhausted, it's really hard to entertain a crying kid. So they give them this tablet to stimulate them. But, you know, gone are the soft colors of Caillou and Clifford and the nurturing environment within. Now it's just this harsh, like, colors that just inoculate and interpolate and get you in there, and just like it's sad. It's sad. It's frying the attention spans of all of us. And I mean, I really do attribute my ADHD that I have accrued, I should say, from YouTube, right? So I mean, I don't know. Take this video. Hopefully you haven't listened to the whole thing, and you just heard me ramble, and you clicked off, and you decided to do something productive. You decided to discover. You decided to form your own memories. And worst case scenario, you're just swiping off, and you're just like clicking on another video. But get off YouTube. Get off things that are safe and easy. I know you're tired. I know it's difficult. Times are tough right now. You don't want to create. You want to ride something safe with training wheels, right? But, you know, we owe it to ourselves to be the best version of ourselves, and to constantly be running forward instead of chasing backwards, you know. So yeah, just a little fun video, a little nice video that I'm making here before my 16-hour shift. I don't know what YouTubers say. Like, subscribe, comment. Am I full of malarkey here? You know, let me know. But yeah, take care, guys. Peace.